Hello, everybody. I hope you have had a happy Thanksgiving and a good rest over the last week or so. We are back at school. The school is decorated for Christmas. We're so glad to see the joy of celebrating our Savior starting here at school and here in New England. I wanted to take some time today to introduce you to some amazing people. These are our volunteers, and I can honestly say that our school could not run without the men and women, sometimes even our students, the boys and girls who volunteer. So in the room today, I have Summer Heath, who is our volunteer coordinator, and we have 3 volunteers, and you're going to hear their stories. Summer, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Great to be here.
And can you do 2 things? One, just introduce us to yourself a little bit, and then tell us a little bit just about the volunteer program writ large.
Sure. I started here as a parent, and then I was a parent volunteer. And then I had both of my kids in school and do not do well sitting at home, So I applied for the volunteer coordinating position, which ended up being the volunteer and event coordinator, which now is the volunteer event and alumni coordinator, which I feel like I have the best job in the school. Honestly, I get to work with the most amazing people.
You cover a lot of people. I mean, you have a portfolio of people. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And they're all wonderful.
So roughly how many volunteers do we have at PCA?
Well, it changes year to year. Yeah. At the beginning of the year, we start off with about 250 to 300. At the end of last year, we had about 400 approved volunteers.
Wow. And just to give everybody a feel, I mean, there are like 450 or so families at PCA. We have enrollment around 670. So that could almost every family roughly represented in terms of numbers by the end of the year.
Correct. At least one spouse per.
Wow. That's really amazing. Yeah. Just to give us some of the things that they do. So what are the different categories that they touch?
What do they not do? So of course the events, we would not have a dance. We wouldn't be hosting grandparents. We wouldn't be serving hot lunch if it wasn't for volunteers.
Right.
So there are so many aspects of the school that everybody loves, and a lot of them are the reasons we choose to send our children to PCA. There are security. There's a whole security team that is volunteer.
Right. Eagle Eyes.
Eagle Eyes, yeah. We have the drivers for the eaglets on field trips. We have classroom volunteers.
We have people helping with landscaping and helping Josh putting stuff together.
Maintenance.
A lot of sports volunteers too, right?
Oh, so many. Yes, sports volunteers.
Yeah, a whole bunch. So the impact, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you hear is really throughout almost every function of the school. And we're so grateful, not just for your help, but for your presence, the spirit that you bring, and really to make it a PCA community. So what do you think, Summer? We get to meet some of these volunteers that are with us today.
I'm so excited about today.
Yeah, that's great. So off to my left, as I sit, ladies and gentlemen, you can't see me. Would you start introducing us to yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. And my name is Melissa Spaulding, and I have 4 children now that attend PCA. We have been here since 2013, so 11 years. Which is very surreal for me. My oldest daughter, Liv, she's in 8th grade. She just had her experience day at the upper school.
Okay.
Which she's very excited about. And I think it's going to be a really good fit for her. Just the way they do a few things differently in terms of, for example, like English, they focus more on writing papers for a test grade. So for her, more project-based, I think is going to be really exciting. So I have Harper, who's in 5th grade, and Jacob is in 1st.
Okay.
And then Isla is in preschool as a firefly with Miss Jody.
Okay.
So
you have you touch almost every division of the school. Right?
Next year we'll be in every single school, from upper school to PCAP.
Wow.
So I'll know what's going on, I guess.
Melissa, you always know what's going on, which is cool. I appreciate that.
But so currently I am working part-time as a 4th grade aide, which has been a lot of fun, and developing the relationships, not only with the teachers, but with the kids is really nice. And another nice part of that is I am a couple doors down from Harper. So she might not be as excited about it, but I love seeing her throughout the day.
I bet she loves seeing you.
Yeah. And, a few days a week I do her recess. So, it's nice because I almost feel like doing the teacher's aide is it feels like volunteering, to be honest. I get the same fulfillment from that as the times that I have volunteered. Okay. And I think that's why I followed my children to school now that I finally had an empty nest after being home with them. And it's just nice being here at school in whatever capacity. And that's what I've done throughout the years is volunteer just so I could also be in the same area as my kids. And it's just been very nice doing that.
That's great.
I think Melissa was the second volunteer I met when I started this job, and she was in a lot of different areas of the school. I know she was one of the top 5 most, most hours for volunteers when I started.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, it's been great.
I am Enid, and I live in Dover, and my husband and I moved to Dover about 13 years ago to be near our family who lives in Dover and sends their kids to PCA. I am Gina Henker's mother. Gina was a librarian here, so I helped her cover books for a few years. And we are grandparents. I am a grandmother to 3 PCA students, one who is Louisa, and she's graduating this year. We're all excited about that. Watching her through senior year is a lot of fun. And we have Tommy in 8th grade and Millie in 7th grade. They thrive here. They thrive here. My husband and I are so grateful for our school, our family who desires to send their kids here. That is a big thing when you raise children that desire Christian education. And we have been involved in the school since about 2011. And what I have done most recently is costuming. During COVID, Mrs. Corso asked if there was anybody who liked to sew and would make costumes for the lower school. So I took that on. I also made a lot of masks when that was needed for the school.
Right.
Then I also mentioned I did book covering in the library to be with my daughter. That was a lot of fun to volunteer and be with one of your own children. And that has been very special for me. Our family has always loved theater, just always. And we used to take our girls to live theater a lot, mostly the traditional ones, I would say, the wholesome, good theater. And I love to sew. So costuming just came naturally to me. And my 3 daughters were involved in theater in their own Christian school. And I did costuming for 13 years there, all through their junior high and senior high years. So 2 years ago, when Cinderella was coming on, my daughter Gina needed to help in some way. And she was buttonholed to lead costuming. And her daughter was in the play. So it was natural for her to say, hey, Mom, you're the one who sews. I will organize everything if you sew. So most recently, I've helped her with costumes for Cinderella and Newsies. And I just love it. I absolutely love it.
You're so good at it, too. The costumes are beautiful.
It's a thrill. Thank you.
Well, I can remember Cinderella and just seeing how you costumed them out and how that changed. And I can think of Susie Stevens when she transformed. I don't know if you're part of that costume when she transforms and she spins.
I made those dresses.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
it's a thrill. It's a thrill, and one of my joys also. Gina will laugh when she hears this, but I love to make something out of nothing and repurpose. And that really is what you need to do when you're making costumes.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much, Enid. Yeah, close us out for today here.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer O'Donnell. We live in Durham. I'm a mom. PCA, I have 4 kids as well. I've got Tyler in PCAP. He is a butterfly this year, so next year he'll be in kindergarten.
Okay.
And then I've got Matthew. He's a 2nd grader. Audrey's in 3rd grade. And then Caroline is with Harper in 5th grade.
Okay.
So I kind of cover the lower side of it.
Yes.
But it's fun that we're going to branch out into middle school next year as well. I get to be an art volunteer. So I get to come in twice a week and I spend about 2 hours a week or 2 hours a session at art class with all of my kids.
Right.
And it's so fun to see them and bond with them at art and share in that creative process and then see their friends as well. I also love to do Grandparent Day. That was so fun seeing the preschoolers interact with their grandparents and how excited they were to share in that. And book fair is also a super fun activity. So,
Wow.
yeah, I would love to learn how to sew.
Well,
Me too.
Yeah.
Every time.
yeah, start drafting some
learn.
succeeding generations here.
Yeah.
So why art? And is there any background to that?
I've always loved art.
Yeah.
I love that little outlet and creative process. And my mom still paints.
Okay.
So that's really fun. And then all my kids have sort of taken to that
Neat.
and really enjoy that. And then Miss Stevens is so fun to hang out with. So
Yeah.
it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, you all, and it's fun to hear your journeys about what brought you to what you do and how you connect into all your different ways and why. But I think the common theme is all the relationships that you either have and then, or the new ones that you continue to build on. So how did you get to that point? I mean, Enid, you shared a little bit of that, of sort of that connection, but how about for Melissa and for Jennifer, what got you there? Obviously your kids coming was a part of it, but was there a little bit more specific journey? I mean, Summer, you may have been a part of that. Some is not necessarily the process, so there is a process to do it. And Summer, you may have touched on that, but anything you said, I'm really going to do this because your time's precious. I mean, you got full families and full demands. What was when you and your husband in particular maybe were thinking through how to, am I going to commit time to this? What was the journey there for you?
For me, my entire life is my family, my kids. And I mean, I can remember being tiny and just wanting to be a mom. That was my number one. And the idea of having my children with me all day, 24/7, and then now I'm handing them over to this entities, to some school, it was very important for me where they were going. With that said, I still felt the need to be around them and I wanted to be involved in their day to day. I didn't just want to drop them off at school. So I was very excited about the fact that PCA loves the idea of volunteers because not every school parents are welcome. And it was just something that I knew I was going to make work somehow, whether, I begged my mom to watch the other kid for, 2 hours or, if my husband was working from home at one point, he would, work with that. So I just really wanted to be a part of their life at school and to take part of that and to let them know that, I care about them and my time, essentially, what there is their time.
Yeah. Well, somebody described to me that, and I think what I hear you saying was is that one of the ways that community, and that's also family community, is reinforced when you can overlay several spheres of your life. So work typically is where we work, where we learn, where we worship, where we just congregate. So that could be your neighborhood. But the more of those that overlap, so when you overlap school with your experience here, you get another sphere of life that overlaps and it just thickens your family community. That's what I think I heard you, one of the ways you say that.
Exactly.
How about you, Jennifer?
So I forgot to mention, we've only been here, this is our third year. We're a former military family and my husband was active duty for 14 years. So I think one of my big reasons for volunteering is we were new to the area. And like you said, Melissa, this is where basically it's like the second home. And I really wanted to get to know the community. And, when you get to a new place, you have to meet new friends and kind of establish a foundation. And I loved having the opportunities that Summer would shoot out all the events. So that's kind of how I started first because Tyler was part-time. So I was able to commit to a few volunteer opportunities like the book fair or grandparents' day sort of situation. And that was really fun. But I love just making this a second family and being a part of their school life as well. And it's been really great.
That's great. Yeah. I think people are surprised. I'm surprised. And then Summer, I don't know what you see, that both of those sort of paths are really sort of where a lot of families connect. But the idea of being new and how do I get to know a
Yeah.
community, that's one that resonates because we move
Right.
around a lot. And
Yeah.
I agree.
You have to jump right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some families forget about that. They feel like they're left out or they feel disconnected. I think they forget it takes a little bit of initiative to step into the community, lend a helping hand.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as you start serving anywhere, whether it's school or the soup kitchen or anywhere you're at, immediately the feeling of self-pity or whatever that is, it goes away.
Yeah, you're
not
feeling isolated. Yeah, feeling like you're
the self-focus is gone when
Yeah.
you start thinking about other people, serving other people. And that is, you may have all of your own individual reasons why you're here, why you started volunteering. But I think the main common denominator we all have is you have the heart of Jesus. You have the servant's heart. You
Mhm.
want to be there. You want to help. You want to be the hands and feet.
Uh-huh.
Summer, Melissa says something though, and I don't know how often you sort of touched on. There's a mindset shift because not every place, not school says, "Hey, we've got to. If you want to volunteer, we can find a really good way for you to do that." How do people just sort of get a sense of what's available, where they might be able to plug in a way? Like each of these women have a way that or sometimes multiple ways that they can plug in, but there's a whole range. How would somebody find out about that?
Well, if you're already involved in the school, I mean, you get the peak every week. And
Thursday.
on Thursdays. The major events are in there, what we need help with. What I did differently this year is I sent out at the beginning of the year a whole list of everything I knew that was going to happen.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And I said, here's what I know is on the agenda. So why don't you just let me know what you might be interested in?
Right.
And then when that time comes, I'll get a hold of you. If you can still help,
Yeah.
great. If not, that's fine too.
Yeah.
And then other ways, we have a Facebook page. We do have an Instagram page for volunteers, but that's more for just highlights and just sharing in the celebration and excitement of the events that we got to do.
Yeah. Well, good. And we'll sort of maybe close on that. But thank you for just showing, where to look. Because, I don't know, information saturated 21st century. Like, where do I look? Because I have so many things going on. That's helpful. So everybody's volunteer journey is different. Everybody's volunteer day probably looks a little different. And I was wondering, Melissa and Jennifer, could you just share a little bit? What does your volunteer day at PCA look like?
Yeah, so for me, it's maybe a little different than somebody who, like some moms will be able to be here, for this full 7 hours devoted day. But for me, especially having, the 4 kids, and this is my first year of having them all at school, I was only able to devote a little time here and there. So, for example, with my oldest, I remember helping out with art class. I was the art parent. Harper, I remember that very fondly. There's a few wild children in that class. So having them in library and trying to keep them quiet was a challenge, but that was a very special time for me to be able to, you just get to go and your child who's in kindergarten just wants to sit on your lap. And as a mom, there's nothing more special than that. So, I've done everything. So for me, having to work around a schedule like that, I found ways that, okay, well, I'm going on the field trip. So I'm going to, not certified, but I'm going to get approved to drive the bus.
Right.
I actually remember this, Mr. Watson teaching me, we're doing our little thing. And I had to tell him, I can do this as long as we can put some car seats in the bus. So I literally had some little kids in their car seats, and he was great with them, of course, as everybody knows, but that's kind of a funny memory doing that. But, being able to drive for the soccer team or a field trip that I just did that to the planetarium.
Right.
So you find ways that work with your schedule. Another one that I've done, I've, gotten to know Elizabeth Nanda well because I've been a class coordinator for the auction probably 8 or 9 times out of this time. So a couple times when they've needed it, I've done a couple classes. That is, a little bit more crazy, but it's, you get the hang of it and it's muscle memory at this point, right? So it's great because you're able to do things from home if you're not able to, or even if you work full time and you say to yourself, well, I can't go there. There are so many things that you can do from home.
Okay.
So I've really been blessed being able to do that and find things. So everything, from meal coordinator for theater, that's where I think we met first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been a great experience helping. And then even when maybe you feel like your kids aren't getting it, all the effort you're putting in, when the next time comes around and maybe you can't do it,
Yeah.
they're like, but mom,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They know.
you realize they know and they feel it. And that's awesome. And you just develop relationships. Like Tommy's her grandson, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen Tommy grow up since preschool because he and Olivia are the same age.
Right.
So it's just really sweet you really do become, it's like a second family. And it's just very comforting when you come onto campus. Yeah. It's very hard to explain, but it just feels, it's like when you have a relationship with your church. Yeah. It's so important and it's very meaningful.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
How about you, Jennifer?
So I get to come in my primary volunteer opportunity this year. I've decided to be art mom because my preschool is finally also full-time.
Yeah.
Which has been really weird. Just to have that empty nest kind of feeling like during the day. So I was really excited I could finally commit to like a weekly routine with them. So Mondays I come in and spend 2 hours in art and I get to see my second grader and help his class out. And it's so fun. So basically I come in, check in, and then I get to go downstairs and the class will usually be in the hallway.
Okay.
And then Miss Stevens will open the door and they'll all go in very quietly. And then she'll go over the instructions for the day. And I sort of just sit in the background and pay attention and follow along to be ready to handle art class. Because
Right.
we'll see you've done it and it's so exciting. It's almost like a recess, but a very organized one.
Yeah.
So the kids will go through what they're going to do and then I'll help her out. So I get to be like a second set of hands for her and ears to listen for the kids and just kind of be there and help them out. So that's really fun. I love when we're working on a project and the kids will come up with all these ideas. And I love just helping them focus on one thing of what we're going to do and then help guide them to do that. And it's really fun seeing all the creativity come up and move along with the project that they're really excited to do.
Yeah, I can see. So I've been down and I love connecting with Susie, Steve, all our teachers, but a couple of times I connected with Susie. She's they are thoughtfully designed. Really lessons. And that spark the curiosity. But one of the words you used, Jennifer, I really appreciated was the word guide. I mean, we've been using that, right? We're guiding your children in their faith walk, in their journey of learning, in their journey of exploring and seeing them grow. And so thank you for helping guide, because we need helpers guiding your future grandkids. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Enid, I know you've got the grandchildren here, and I know it's been a while. Can you describe just a little bit? I imagine you have a strong relationship with them already. You described some of that, but how has being involved the way you have been impacted your relationship with your grandchildren?
It has been wonderful. We're very close anyway because we live 4 miles from each other. And ever since the kids were in school, I've been picking them up to help my daughter. And there's that dimension where in our family, we have 3 generations involved, my husband and I, and then my daughter, Gina, with her husband, and then the students here, the 3 grandkids. And so we are all in this together. And I love seeing the grandkids when I come to help here. Tommy won't run up and hug me now. The girls run up and hug me. And I try to remember to bring snacks for them. And then I think the most fun is to meet their friends. And I have a relationship with their friends. So when they come over to my daughter's house, they've even been to my house.
Oh, wow.
And to serve them a meal or to be with them. Even when Melissa or somebody else offers a meal for the cast and the crew, we get to meet other people. Like I met Melissa through that. But just being with the kids, I love to talk with them about their friends. And even their friends this year when I returned to do Newsies after Cinderella, one girl ran up to me and hugged me. And I forgot her name. Now, it could have been a senior moment. But that girl went and told my granddaughter, I can't believe your grandmother forgot my name.
Oh.
So I went and I bought her a candy bar to bring her the next time. And I told my granddaughter about how I brought her a candy bar. She says, Grammy, she can't eat nuts.
Oh.
So I lost it. But anyway, just a lot of things. Theater kids are fun.
They are.
They're quirky. They don't care how they look. So you have fun together. And I think for me, my relationship with my grandchildren is so much richer because I know so much about their life. And their life is PCA and their church and their home. And we're in it together. And that's wonderful.
Well, thanks for just bringing the way God works through generations and bringing that together. It's so encouraging. I hope that, everyone out listening is just as encouraged by these 3 journeys for volunteering. So, Melissa, you mentioned that you've seen a little bit of how PCA has impacted the broader community. I mean, you talked about your journey, your family, but how do you see it more broadly? Paint a little picture there of that, the students, the broader community.
Well, I think it's so important that the students have an outlet such as this school. I think when every day, like my kids don't know anything else.
Okay.
So sometimes, maybe they'll grumble about something and I try to explain to them, you do not understand how lucky you are, how privileged that you are to attend a school like this. Your teachers love you. I have 99% of the time, the teachers have either felt like a grandmother or like an aunt to the kids. The bond that they develop, and it's truly, you can see it, that they believe it's their calling. It is Christ's love that is coming through them. And you do not get that everywhere. And I think that the way that these kids are growing up 7-8 hours a day, being just inundated with this love and this care for them and being taught these amazing biblical principles that it's just so evident. Like, for example, when we go and play another team.
Yeah.
The conversations maybe on the bus back or the next day is, oh, Mom, like this happened, or oh my goodness, they said this. And they don't realize, like, they don't know what they don't know until they're exposed to some of these things. And as a parent, it's just amazing to be able to see children being raised in the way that they're being raised, like whether it's at home and with PCA partnering. It's really encouraging to see, like you said, the broader picture, who we're putting out into the world.
Yeah.
We truly are training these kids to be the light out there in the community, in the world. And it's so meaningful to me to be able to do that and to be a part of it as a parent and as a volunteer. And I mean, I would just encourage anybody who is thinking about it. My son, for example, he said to me, because I don't work on Fridays, he's like, Mommy, I want you to work on Fridays. Like,
okay.
If I don't see him throughout the day, I will be admonished at the end of the day. He's like, Mommy, I did not see you today. I did not get my hug. Yes.
Yeah.
He is the sweetest little boy. There's something about little boys and their mom, and he is just so sweet. I love all my children, but he is the sweetest little thing. And I hope he never wants to stop hugging me, but I'm sure it's ended with Tommy, that it will one day. But, I get to walk the halls and he sees me. His friends go, Jake, your mom. And they all alert everyone, and he comes running out, hugs me, and look at poor Mrs. Locature. I'm so sorry. But she's great about it. But it's little things like that that's like selfishly I love about being here. But knowing, bringing it back to the broader community, just knowing, okay, I'm raising my son a certain way, right? He's being taught certain principles that he would not be taught elsewhere.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's just really encouraging in a world that we're living in today to know all of these amazing principles that are being instilled in my children and in the community.
Well, I hope one of the things I hope that you sense, and Summer, I may ask you, is that we're just reinforcing what you are doing at home and in your churches through your extended families. I mean, that's our hope, right? And when you come here and volunteer, in the minds of your kids, it makes sense to them. To your point, they don't know any different but as we know, the world, America actually has a great volunteer spirit about it. So I don't want to take anything away. I mean, we live in a country. I was overseas in some of my tours, and volunteerism is not quite the same in other cultures. It's just different. So the country and our own culture has it, but this takes it another level. Don't you see volunteer here is a little different, Summer? Or how do you see it impacting the broader community when these volunteers come? I don't even know if they're fully aware of the impact they're having on us when they come. I know they help.
The volunteers have no idea that they're impacting this community so well. I mean, just it's so difficult to even explain, but I see it on the kids' face, and the kids have no idea either.
Yeah.
But this is an environment that runs the way it runs, and we really truly don't know how great it is unless we were to step out into a different community. So I think as far as what we do for our broader community, the Dover community, it's probably maybe encouraging from the outside looking in. I'm sure there are parents that you have friends over, that you have friends of that say, well, we don't get to come into our schools and volunteer the way you guys do. That must be so nice. I've heard that several times.
I've heard it too.
But other than that,
well, one of the things that this group may not know, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know, but the upper school students are expected, and we require them. They log their volunteer service hours, and we work really hard to make it. This isn't a check the block, do it thing. This is like you're really having an impact, right? And some of that can be at school, but some, we don't want all of it here in the school community. Although they help, the student help is huge too. Right. But I think that even beyond, through their church, in your neighborhoods, and sometimes we just see the impact in ways we can't even imagine. Mission trips through your churches. It's really amazing just to see how it starts to really spill over. Like when the cup says, the Lord says, He's going to help overflow our cup with His blessing. We see it through your volunteers.
Well, and the children at the school see the volunteers working, and they're no strangers to what a volunteer is. I could ask any child in this school, what is a volunteer? They know exactly, and they appreciate. So as they grow and they become upper school students, they've already been trained on what a volunteer is and why it's important. So by the time they start earning service hours, it's not difficult for them to do. It's just like breathing for them. They can go out and they can serve. And the men and women that are serving in the community, they also get commented on how mature they are, how respectful they are, how hardworking they are. And so I think we are raising servants.
Yeah, generation.
I think the older kids at PCA do have grown to appreciate what they see in the volunteers, because when I'm at school now for the costuming, I get thanked constantly for what I'm doing. And we try and work really hard with the kids to make them happy, because this is their happy place. And it can bring a girl to tears if she doesn't like her costume. And so if you make it what she feels comfortable in, it's thank you, Mrs. Band. Thank you, Grammy Band. They're calling me Grammy too, but they appreciate us. And my own grandkids will say, thank you for driving me home. Thank you for coming and doing this. Thank you for bringing cupcakes. So I think as they get older, they see us working with the school, and they will think and appreciate.
So theater was the Black Box production that they just recently did, and Harper was in Charlotte's Web. And so I signed up to do one night of dinner. And as funny as this sounds, it was only for 50 people this time. So
Only 50 people.
well, the Cinderella musical, it was for 70 because we had the pit. So I was like, oh, okay, not a problem. I can do that. And of course, once you start doing it and you're at the grocery store, you're like, oh my goodness, 50 people. But it's just funny because I remember, telling some people, like my sister, and she's like, you're crazy. Like, I would never. But the thing is, like, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, to see these kids just so grateful, like you said, every kid coming through the line. Oh my goodness, thank you, thank you, thank you. They're not empty thank yous either. They are just so grateful.
Yeah.
They're so polite. And selfishly, it's serving others. You do get that feeling of just, it's amazing that you are serving others.
Yeah.
And it really is, like they say, people that have like depression, if you go and you serve others, it takes the focus off yourself and it just feeds you. It really does. And I did not feel like, it's the funniest thing. If I have to make chicken nuggets sometimes for my kids at home, it's like, oh, like I don't want to do this because it's like, they're like, oh, you didn't make this and no one wants this. And 4 kids, nobody wants the same thing. But to make a meal for 50 people, like I didn't have any of that. Like it literally was so fulfilling. And it honestly was very enjoyable.
That's great.
Can I just ask, what do you make for 50 kids?
Well, I made burrito bowls. So I did, pulled pork in the crock pot.
Right.
So it was amazing, right? It was a whole 30 recipe that I actually gave out to some people. And it was the easiest thing. So it's like, I felt almost like a fraud because I'm like, this was not difficult. So, you make 10 pounds of meat and, so it was great. And it looked much more impressive, I felt, than it really was. But, the kids loved it. The adults loved it. And I guess selfishly, it was very fulfilling for me too. And I think that is just amazing to do that. And back to what you were saying about the impact on the community, I can't remember the numbers and I don't want to put Summer on the spot, but I mean, we have like won awards or at least been awarded like the most hours, correct? Like in the state or something for volunteering.
On the Seacoast,
Yes.
there was a Blue Ribbon Award that we apply for every year. And the schools around the Seacoast would submit their volunteer hours. And we won that award 22 years in a row. Wow. And then they stopped doing it. So we
of course.
really anymore. But
It was rigged.
rigged.
Yeah, we're incredibly grateful for the community. And I can imagine through all of this, and you've shared some of them already, but anybody else want to share a memorable moment, volunteer moment that sticks with you?
So I have a big one. One of the other things I like to do is chaperone when the kids have field trips. So I was able to chaperone for the 3rd grade, and we went to the Great Bay Discovery Center.
Okay.
And Bobby wasn't able to be there the whole time, but he kind of like floated in and out around me.
Bobby's your husband.
Bobby is my husband. And so it was kind of funny. It's one of those moments where you just know God meant for you to be in a certain spot. So we go through this entire field trip, and they go through all the little exhibits and everything. And it's the very end of the field trip. And it was kind of funny because Bobby wasn't there, but he came back for the last like 30 minutes of it. I was like, well, maybe, it's only 30 minutes. You can go about your day. But he really felt like that calling, like, I'm going to bring you lunch too, and I'll just come. And so it's the end of the whole thing. It's like about, I don't know, it was afternoon. So it was lunchtime. All the kids are eating. And then there's these play structures that they get to go to. And we're looking at this. There's our 3rd grade class, and then there's another school as well. And I have no idea how many kids were on that play structure. And they're jumping and running, and we're sitting there, all the parents. We're at this point thinking, somebody's going to get hurt. Something is going to happen. Someone's going to like bonk their head falling off the swing or, fall off the giant like slide structure thing.
The inevitable.
It's going to
Gravity
happen.
is going to.
Yep.
And right, exactly. As soon as we're saying all this, one of the moms goes, oh my gosh, your husband's a doctor, right? And I was like, yes. And he's also a paramedic. And I was an EMT. When we were freshly married, we would actually volunteer to be on an ambulance and we would do date night.
Oh,
So, yeah, we did that. So we volunteered that way too. So it was like kind of just a perfect moment when she's like, we need a doctor. And then we're guided over to this kid from the other school that was running. And I guess he was playing on these stumps. And the story that I heard was he was on the stumps and then jumped onto another stump with some leaves and then fell with his arms outstretched.
Yeah.
And it broke both of the bones in his left arm, like completely deformed, but all within. So fortunately, Bobby's there and he went over and was able to get the ice back to the kid. And he's still a medic, so he has a go bag in his car. So I was able to run out to the car and grab his supplies. But it was just really nice because he was able to help the kid just calm down. And I was amazing watching our kids like all off in the distance, just sort of like stay out of the way and listen to the teachers and be respectful.
Right.
But we were able to help that kid while we waited for the fire department come and ambulance and all that. But that was like quite the ending to a field trip. So that goes down.
I can imagine. That's memorable. And you brought some other, you bring some other superpowers. And,
right.
that Summer may not have been tracking.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
We need it at the moment.
Maybe
Lord knows.
Yeah, some EMT chaperones maybe.
Yeah, well.
That was...
Well, we have our own go bags too. Not quite as probably as kitted out as Bobby's. But anyway, that's so cool. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those moments where you knew that God meant for you to be there.
Yeah.
And it seemed like one of those small things, and we could have just said, "Oh, it's okay, you don't need to come back." But him being in that moment, it just took so much pressure and stress off.
Yeah.
Everyone in such a chaotic environment.
Well,
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, having the right medical help at the right time is so. Yeah, I know what it's like. So, Enid, how about you?
I think for me, one of my memorable moments was working together with Julie Stevens, who was Cinderella. And I really formed a relationship with her because when I was asked, my daughter asked me to make one transformation dress. I thought, how do you do this? I tried to rent one. I tried to buy one. I tried everything, but the script tells you exactly what it needs to look like and be like. And I took a wedding dress from the costume closet at the school and we used that and we needed to dress under that. And then it turned into 2 transformation dresses.
So what's a transformation dress?
It's that's my point.
Okay.
My special moment was because of all the work that Julie and I had done together. I wasn't working for her. I was working with her to make this work because she had to do the right things. First of all, a transformation dress is when you layer 2 costume dresses together and you pull from the shoulders to drop the bodice of one dress to expose the other. But the skirt also has to be different. And Julie had to work just as hard to spin around while that dress was falling as I did to make it. I would get to school some days and I had the layers wrong, had to take it home. It was very confusing, but I did it. And the success of that when she was on stage and she twirled and it worked was a thrill. It was a thrill because it was success together with Julie. It wasn't just what I did. It was, she had to spin and spin. And she was told by the director, spin until the dress is right. And she was also wearing glass slippers that my daughter found her on Amazon. And so working together with those teenagers was fun. And so that was my moment when the transformation dresses worked.
It sounded like you had to keep working on it to make it make it work.
It was quite a project. And at some points there was too much Velcro on it and the Velcro would stick to other parts of the dress. So I'd have to rip all the Velcro off. It was amazing.
It was.
But it used my brain. And at my age, that's really good too.
Well, and you worked with her. I mean, she was the lead. I mean, if I remember the scene, this is when she's getting ready to go to the ball, right? And she's in her work clothes.
Yes.
Yeah. It was amazing.
And all the little girls in the audience went, ooh. They couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
it was fun.
I mean, for anyone who has not seen it and they're just listening right now and not have the visual, anything we're saying is not doing it justice, because even the work dress that he was saying that she transformed out of, you did such an amazing job of both of them. But to honestly see it, like, even I was doing that. Ooh, like, it was incredible the way, the engineering feat, honestly, that, like, what you did. And it was beautiful. And it was such a moment in the play. It really, you did an amazing job. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's so
It's
fun.
my joy.
So fun to watch you two interact, not really knowing each other other than maybe meeting one time. And she knows so much about you and just the connections that we form without even realizing.
Right.
And then we get around a
Right.
table and we realize how intertwined we actually are. It's amazing.
And that's what's special too, is I've gotten to know my grandkids' friends' parents to the point where I have some of their numbers on my phone because I need to text them and say, I'm dropping Millie off at 2:30. Or, you know, it's just, being a volunteer is wonderful.
Well, that's so,
And there's a question about that.
there is. Well, I just wanted to wrap it up. This has been such an encouraging conversation. I'll let Summer have the last word on this one. But, and you've touched on it a little bit. What sort of final encouragement or advice would you give to the community?
About maybe considering volunteering
Absolutely.
at PCA?
Exactly. Thank you, Enid, for finishing my thought.
I would say that God is doing big things here, really big things. And Mr. Rooney brought us through that COVID pandemic, and my husband calls him a hero because of it, Mr. Rooney. It was wonderful. God is, as I said, doing big things here. And take the plunge if you want to volunteer, but don't know how. You'll find a spot, and God will enable you to do what is needed here. And it's a happy place, and happiness is contagious. And my daughter works here, and she loves it. And it's contagious. You'll be happy if you're here.
There's so many different areas to volunteer. And if you can't do like a weekly sort of opportunity, there's so many events. Summer posts all the time, from book fairs to decorating the school. There's just so much that you can look at and get ways to get involved in. I would say maybe start small. I know I've heard from a few moms, they were nervous about overcommitting.
Sure.
Because I think as moms, we always say yes. And then we get home and we're like, oh my gosh, we have so much to do. So I think it's nice to start when an event pops up. Maybe just try it. Just come and volunteer for an hour or two and see what you think. And then usually I feel like that's when you meet other moms and you find out other opportunities, and then you sort of follow into that and find your place.
That's great. Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah. It's a highlight of my day whenever I've been here. It really has. I mean, this is maybe a little random, but it just keeps coming back to me as thinking, so I've had 4 children. And for me, after having a baby can be kind of a lonely time, you know, postpartum depression, all of that. And any time that I would come here and get out of the house and just be with this community, I cannot tell you how much it had uplifted my spirits, like, over the years. And I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I just feel like maybe there's someone out there that is going through that. And whether it's because they had a baby or because they're going through a hard time in life, the one thing, I did not want to leave my house. I didn't. I just wanted to stay holed up and, you know, isolate myself. But I also wanted to see my child at school. And so I just forced myself to do it. And that's probably one of the best things that I ever did. It has impacted me in so many ways, in so many positive ways, and been so helpful. The only regret I have is that I didn't have more time to do it when, you know, throughout those years, because it was honestly, it was good for my soul. It really was. And if you're thinking about it, or even if you're not thinking about it, just try it.
Well, all three of you just so compelling. Summer, let you close this out just on encouragement to the broader community. And
if you were thinking about volunteering at PCA, please do. We need you. And if you're feeling overwhelmed about the idea of volunteering for PCA, I am anti-overwhelm. So if you
What does that mean?
if you get involved,
'Cause I need some of that.
if you get involved, I know boundaries. I know limits and boundaries very well, and you have to learn that. And so if you get involved in PCA, you come to me and you say, Summer, this is a little more than, I bit off a little more than I can chew. Nobody's going to fault you for that. I'm going to ask you to take a step back if I haven't already seen it already, that you need that break.
Yeah,
Because I've done that before too.
sure.
And we're not here to overwhelm you. We're here to encourage you. We're here to be a part of your family. Volunteers do not ride home with their kids asking and begging for information about their friends, their teachers, what happened in class. We already know.
Yeah.
We know what's going on. We know who you're hanging out with.
Mhm.
We know what your teachers are saying to you. We know who the head of school is and how he is a hero. He really is. And we get to rub shoulders with the people that are working for Christ and who are working for the same goals and accomplishments that we would like to see in our children.
Well, thank you, the four of you, so much. Summer, thank you for leading this effort. Ladies and gentlemen, when you come on campus, all those decorations were put up by volunteers, right? I think there's a whole platoon that's coming in later today. This is the Friday before Thanksgiving that we're recording this. And I thought when we were sort of scheduling these that you, our PCA community, hearing from our volunteers on the day you come back after Thanksgiving break would be the best time. We've been focusing a lot this month on service to our country, with Veterans Day, the service in different ways that our students do inside of the school community. But I really wanted to end sort of our service focus before we move to Advent with just really connecting with you all. And so grateful to you. And again, we'd love to have you a part of our community. And as I like to say, I will see you on campus soon, I hope. God bless you.